1922. The record should reflect that Mr. Holmes is present with his attorneys, Ms. Brady, Mr. King, Ms. Nelson, Ms. Spengler, and Ms. Higgs. And the people are represented by Mr. Brockler, Ms. Pearson, Mr. Orman, Mr. Edson, and Ms. Stitch McGuire. We are outside the presence of the jury. Are the parties ready for the jury, the people, Mr. Brockler?
Your Honor, with one exception, and that is the lavaliers.
I'm sorry? Yeah.
I'm sorry, not lecture. No,
Oh.
the wireless microphones that go.
Oh, are they missing?
Lectern / podium.
We're sitting here.
Oh,
Oh, there they are. This was eating.
did you find them? Yeah, okay.
That's it.
All right, how about the defense? Are you ready for the jury? All right, let's bring the jury in, please.
It's not that great.
Please be seated, everyone. Good morning, members of the jury. How's everybody doing? Good. It's good to have you back. Mr. Proctor, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Lauren Ashley Schuler, please. Okay. Hey, Your Honor, for logistical reasons, we're going to shift, and we've got another victim that's present here. We'll do Ms. Schuler after that with the court's permission.
Yes, go ahead. Ms. Tish McGuire, call the next witness, please.
Shirley Clark.
Good morning. Could I have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Shirley J. Clark, Shirley. J. Clark, Clark.
Ms. Tish McGuire, you may proceed.
Were you at the Century 16 movie theater on July 20th of 2012 in Aurora, Colorado?
Yes.
Did that go into the early morning hours of July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Please tell the jury a little bit about what you remember from the day of July 19th prior to going to the movie theater that day.
That day I planned on going to see Batman at midnight. So I went with my boyfriend at the time and his family, and I met some friends there.
Did you tell the jury the names of the people that you went with, the full names?
Armani Jackson, Shayelle Jackson, Monet Jackson, and that's it.
Right, and how old were you at the time?
I was 19.
What happened when you got to the movie theater that night?
Well, a couple minutes.
When you first got to the movie theater, did you go to the concession stand or did you go into the theater?
I went to the concession stands, got food.
Did you go into the theater and find your seats?
Yes.
All right, could you tell the jury where you found your seats in the theater?
Second row all the way to the left.
All right, and what did you do while you were waiting for the movie to begin?
I was eating.
All right, did you talk to your friends at all?
Yeah.
All right, what happened during your movie that night?
I just remember the exit door to the right swinging open, and I saw a guy come in with armor, and he threw a smoke bomb.
Now, tell the jury about what happened when the person walked in the door. Did they stand there for a minute first?
He did, yeah.
All right. And before they threw the object, there was like a pause of standing.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
You can answer the question.
I think it's a neither or question as I understood it. Why don't you ask the question again?
Sure, Your Honor. So when the figure walked into the theater for the first time, what do you recall, kind of in slow motion, if you can tell a jury?
Him just walking in.
And then what do you recall happening after that?
Then he threw the gas bomb.
And could you see what that was at the time? Were you able to see that object?
No.
Okay. And where did that object go across the theater?
It went behind, it was behind me, so I believe it was the middle aisle.
So if you're staring at the movie theater screen and this is the right of the movie theater screen and that's the left of the movie theater screen, did it go from right to left?
Yes.
What do you recall happening after that object got thrown?
Then he started shooting.
You had described earlier for the jury that you thought the person was wearing armor. Could you talk to the jury about what you mean by armor?
It just seemed like a guy came in with a lot of big black armor. That's all I could see.
So when you said the figure started shooting, could you actually see any weapons at that point in time?
No, I could just see fire sparks.
Right? And what else do you remember happening?
I just remember everybody screaming and crying.
And how did the gunfire sound to you at that point in time?
Really loud. And repetitive.
What do you remember doing once you started hearing the gunfire?
Armani told me to get down, and he threw me down really fast, and then I hit my head on the seat.
Now, how were your bodies positioned when you got down on the ground?
So I'm on my knees at this point, and we're dunking behind the seats.
And was your head kind of closer to the left aisle or to the right aisle at that point in time?
To the left.
Right. And what do you recall happening while you're down on the ground?
I just remember everybody yelling and saying that it's real and that we all need to get out of here as soon as possible. And then I just heard people just screaming, so then everybody's running out, trampling over each other.
Were you able to get out at that point in time?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury about how it was that you got out of the theater?
So we waited for a while, and then while the shooter was walking more toward our side, then Armani just said to run. So then when he told me to run, I just ran. And then we were running into everybody, so we just kept hearing the gunshots, and then finally we just ran all the way out.
So did you run out, so if you're facing the theater, did you run out through the left exit back towards the lobby?
Yes.
Could you hear gunfire while you were in the lobby?
Yes.
So you could hear gunfire the entire time
All the way until I ran out.
until you ran out.
Yeah.
And at this time, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1118.
You may.
Ms. Clark, do you recognize that document?
Yes.
Does it fairly and accurately represent what you recall happening on July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I'd move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1118.
Judge, I have no objection.
All right, without objection, P-TR-1118 is admitted and may be published.
Can I please have 1118? All right, Ms. Clark, in front of you there is a little mouse. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right. Okay, great. And it's kind of sensitive. If you could use that mouse to point out for the jury where you were seated and tell the jury where you were and where your friends were.
Okay. I was seated in this second row, front left, and I am the S.
All right, and could you tell the jury who everyone else was who was seated there?
Armani was to my right, Monet was to my left, and then Shael was next to Monet.
Now, could you show the jury on that diagram where it was that that canister went? So that's where it landed. And can you tell them where you remember it starting from?
Over here.
Okay, where that C1 is that right on your diagram?
Yes, canister 1, C1.
Right, and on your diagram you have a thing that says shoot or walk. Can you talk about what that means?
Yes, so this is where I seen the door fling open, and then he walked over here to the first few seats, and then that's when I seen gunfire.
Now, when you saw the figure walk to that point that you're showing the jury right now, could you look around this courtroom and guess about approximate distance to how far away you were from the shooter at that point in time?
You can't guess, but you can estimate.
Thank you. Sorry, Your Honor.
I probably toward the doors.
That's about how far away the shooter was from you.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Now, on your diagram, could you show the jury how it was that you were able to get out of the theater that night?
Yes. So we just ran out simply to the left and then all the way out to the main doors. So starting here all the way down.
Thank you. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask that Ms. Clark approach the 3D model.
Judge, I'm going to object as to that testimony would be cumulative to the testimony about the diagram.
Ms. Tish McGuire, is there anything she's going to add that she hasn't yet said?
May we approach, Your Honor?
Yes. The objection is sustained as cumulative under Rule 403.
Ms. Clark, what happened when you got outside the movie theater?
We ran directly to the parking lot, and then shortly after, more people started running out, and that's when we seen a few people that were bleeding, and that was it, really.
Did you have any injuries that you noticed after getting out of the theater?
Only thing I had was a huge knot on my head and a few scratches on my knees.
All right, I have no further questions for this witness. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. King, do you have any cross-examination?
I do not, thank you.
All right. And the jury does not have any questions. Ms. Tish McGuire, may this witness be excused or released from her subpoena?
Please, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
There's none.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Please call your next witness.
Or actually Schuler, I hope, Your Honor.
This is like deja vu all over again. Good morning. Could I have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath? You solemnly swear or affirm on a penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name for the record and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Lauren Ashley Schuler, Lauren Ashley Schuler.
Mr. Brockler, you may proceed with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, would you please tell us what you do for a living?
Now I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Back in 2012, and I'm going to specifically ask you about July 19th and 20th, what were you doing?
I was in the Navy.
Did you work out at Buckley?
I did.
Now, I'm going to ask you about the time that you spent in Theater Number 9 at the Century 16 Theaters with some people that were there. And in order to discuss how you know these people, I want to ask you, did you work with the people we're going to talk with?
I did.
Sorry. What were their names?
Greg McDonald, Bear O'Buns, I don't know how to say his last name, and John Larimer.
And how did you know them?
Worked with them. They were in the Navy as well.
What did you guys all do?
Cryptology.
What's the biggest secret you can tell us?
I can't tell you.
Okay. Would you describe your relationship with John Larimer as close?
Not super close. We just knew each other through mutual friends.
How did you guys end up at the theater together on the 19th?
He was friends with Bear and Greg, so we were all in a group together with Julia.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Ma'am, I'm going to hand you three different things. One is People's Exhibit 2652. One is People's Exhibit 4869. And one of them is a blank layout of the theater. Can you take a look at those? Without the blank layout of the theater, would you tell us if you recognize what is in each of the other two photographs?
I do.
Tell us what they are, and tell us by the exhibit number at the bottom.
Exhibit number 2652 is a picture of John Larimer.
Okay.
And exhibit 4869 is a picture of my left shoulder with shrapnel on it.
And we'll get to that in a moment. First off, the picture of Mr. Larimer, he is in uniform there. Is that the uniform that you worked with him in every single day?
No.
Nonetheless, is that the way he fairly and accurately looked on the night of July the 19th and early morning hours of July 20th before the incident we're about to talk about?
Yes.
And actually, Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of People's Exhibit
2652, I think.
2652, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, is there any objection, Mr. King?
No.
All right, without objection, P-TR-2652 is admitted.
Ma'am, put that up for us, please. This is John Larimer?
Yes.
To be fair, this is not how he was dressed when he was at the theater with you that night?
No.
Okay, thank you. Now, in getting to the theater, did you guys hunt out seats together?
Me and Greg McDonald showed up later. They had already reserved the seats.
Who's they?
John and Bear and Julia.
So there's 5 of you.
Yes.
Now, I want to ask you about your memory of the specific details of where you sat on that evening and early morning hours. Is it spot on?
No.
Okay. Do you have a pretty good idea of where you sat?
Roughly.
Do you have a pen up there?
A Sharpie.
May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Ma'am, do us a favor and circle the area where you think you and your 4 other companions sat for the movie.
Okay.
Do you remember the rough order of how you sat next to each other?
Roughly, yes. I know who sat directly beside me, but after that, I'm not really sure.
And did you have people on either side of you that you knew, or only on one side?
Only on one side.
Who was that?
Greg McDonald.
And so would Mr. Larimer and, did you say Bear is his name?
Yeah, Bear and Julia.
Which is a cool name. How far down the road did they sit from you?
They sat directly after Greg. I'm just not sure which order they were in now.
Do the best you can, would you? And just write initials and circle you in the seat that you think that you were in.
Okay. Okay.
Do me a favor, and would you write your name at the bottom of that and put today's date?
Yes. Okay.
There's one other thing that I'm going to talk to you about, but not just with this piece of paper, but I'd like you to indicate it on there. At some point during this evening, did you have to step over a body?
Yes.
Do us a favor, and on that, would you indicate where that body was located? I need an exhibit.
Okay.
This is me drawing out time to get an exhibit sticker for the thing that should have been marked. Forgive me. Your Honor may have a moment to go get that.
Yes.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Can I see that? This has been freshly marked as People's Exhibit 1220. Your Honor, I'm going to move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1220 into evidence.
I don't think I have an objection if I can just get a quick peek at it.
Yes,
though.
go ahead.
Sorry about that, Mr. King.
I have no objection.
All right, without objection, P-TR-1220 is admitted and may be published.
Your Honor, with the court's permission to describe the action in the theater, I'd like to ask the witness if she could come down and talk us through the 3D model.
Yes. Why don't you bring the microphone with you? There's a handheld microphone there. Turn it on, and then make sure you speak into it so we can all hear you, okay?
Okay.
You got it. Okay. Now, you just indicated on 1220 by circling the rows and the approximate seats that you thought you and your friends were sitting at. And keep in mind, all these folks here in front of you are going to need to see as best you can. Would you point to the area where you think you and your 4 companions were sitting?
Roughly right there.
Sort of the center?
Yes.
All right, now can you indicate which seats you believe you were sitting in and then the other 4?
Roughly in the middle of one of the rows.
Okay, not on the ends for sure.
No.
All right, pretty fortunate to get seats together?
Yes.
This is what I want to talk about now. As you're sitting there during the movie, something weird happens.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
I noticed a canister flying across from the front right to the stairs, and I thought it was something for the midnight showing, something special. And then people started ducking, and I didn't understand why people were ducking. And then what I thought sounded like firecrackers at first came from up there, and again I thought it was a special effect. And then more people started ducking, and that's when I turned to Greg, and me and him both were like, I don't know what's happening, while we were ducking behind a seat.
Now, one sec. Let me back up and ask you some follow-up questions. You've indicated with your hand that you see this thing fly from, and you indicated the right front from where we're standing behind this stadium seating. Is that fair?
Yes.
Is that the first thing that you recall happening that was out of the ordinary?
Yes.
Were you scared yet?
No.
Okay, you thought it was part of the movie. The next thing you heard, you said, was?
It sounded like firecrackers.
When you're hearing the firecrackers, you remember what other people around you were doing?
People around me were ducking, and again, I didn't understand why.
Did you hear any different sounds coming from people in the theater when you were hearing the firecracker sounds?
Just people screaming. That was it.
How long do you think you heard the firecracker sounds before you and, did you say Greg?
Yes, Greg.
Greg started ducking behind the seats.
Maybe 5-10 seconds.
Even as you're ducking behind the seats, ma'am, are you scared yet?
No.
Why not?
Because to me, it still didn't understand what was happening.
So you're now ducked behind the seats with Greg. What's going on?
At that point, that's when I started to get scared. Because that's when I guess the gas or whatever was tossed reached me. And I was scared that it was knockout gas, and I didn't want to pass out. And so that's when I started breathing through my shirt, hoping that that would help.
The gas, did it come out of that thing that you described flying across the theater?
Yes.
Now, you thought it might be knockout gas.
Yes.
Did it affect you in any other way that you can recall?
No.
As you started to get scared, what's going on around you in the theater?
What I hear is, what I now know is gunshots and not fireworks or firecrackers. It stopped for a second, and then a different sound came.
What did that sound like?
A gun, but a different gun.
What was the difference between them, if you recall?
I remember the first one really, really, really fast, and I know the second one wasn't as fast.
Do us a favor, if you would. Talk us through then what decisions you made as you're hearing this new set of gunfire.
I was making sure that my body, as much as I could, was covered by the seat that was in front of me that I was ducking behind.
Could you tell what was going on to your left and your right with the people that had been seated next to you?
I know that the people to the left and to the right of me were on the ground as well, but that was it.
Did you have a sense of any of the other companions you'd been with that night?
No.
Do you feel like you did a good job of, did you feel like you were doing a good job of ducking at the time?
I felt like I was, yes.
How long do you think you ducked behind those seats before you did something different?
I felt like it was maybe a minute or two, but I'm not really sure.
I'm sorry, gunfire the whole time?
Until it stopped, obviously, yes.
How did you get out of there?
Once the gunfire stopped and people started running, I jumped over the seats, or whichever row I was in, ran down, and then that's where the body was that I had to jump over before I left.
Now, your finger did some stuff here. Can I talk you through that and you make
Yes.
sure I'm saying it the right way?
Yes.
You jumped over how many rows do you think?
I do not recall. I know at least one. but I'm not really sure how many I actually jumped over before I made it to the stairs.
Were you panicked?
Yes, I was.
Why didn't you just run down the row you were in?
There were tons of bodies down the road, down the stairs. It was just chaos.
Did you have the sense that others were hopping over the rows too as you fled?
Yes.
Was there a struggle to get out around the end here?
Just right there, people were stopping. People were panicking even more, at least at that point that I noticed.
We had talked earlier when you were up in the stand and we had you fill out that People's Exhibit 1220 about you having to actually step over a body. Do you remember that?
Yes,
Can you indicate for the jury where that was on here?
right there.
Did you have the ability to take the time to see if you knew who that body was?
No, at that moment in my head, it was a flight or fight mindset, and so I ran.
After you got over that body, where'd you go?
I exited through here and went out into the parking lot.
And were you able to hook up with your companions?
Later, I was the first one out there.
Okay. I don't need this anymore for you, ma'am. Thank you. If you would take your seat again. Ma'am, at the time that you're in the parking lot, do you know if you've been injured?
No,
Do you think you've been injured?
no.
What happens that leads you to conclude you had been injured?
Whenever Greg finally made it out of the theater and we met up, he told me that there was blood on my shoulder, and I didn't know if it was someone else's blood or my blood, and he told me to get it checked out, and I told him I was fine.
What would make you think it was someone else's blood?
Objection calls for speculation.
Well, rephrase the question. She said she didn't know if it was her blood or someone else's blood. So rephrase the question. The objection is sustained as to the form of the question.
Yes, Your Honor. Ma'am, you said you didn't know if it was your blood or someone else's blood. What things occurred in the theater that would lead you to think it might be someone else's blood?
After seeing the body that I had to jump over, I knew that there was probably more than just that one.
Okay. So what happens?
He took me over to one of the paramedic firefighter person that was there, and they said that I was fine at the time.
Did you come to find out that that wasn't quite right?
Yes, whenever we got to the high school, someone else examined me a little further.
And what'd you discover?
They told me that there was shrapnel all in my shoulder.
Take a look at the other exhibit that we haven't admitted yet. What number is on that one?
4869.
Tell us what 4869 is.
That's a picture of me at the school that they took after examining me.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of the wounds that you had shortly after this incident?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move for the admission of People's 4869 into evidence.
Is there any objection, Mr. King?
Yes, Judge, may we approach?
Yes. The exhibit is admitted P-TR-4869. And it may be published.
Thank you.
Ma'am, that photograph, before we publish it, I want to clear up a couple things on there. Do you see a hand in there with a piece of yellow paper with a number written on it in there?
Yes.
Do you know whose hand that is?
No.
And maybe I should have asked that better. Was that hand by a police officer that was assisting in taking the pictures?
I don't remember.
Okay, and you don't know if that thing is a placard just marking the number of photograph it is?
No, that was, I think, my number that they interviewed me with, so it would go with when they talked to me there, so that it matched up.
So it was just a number to match you up with the number of people they'd talked to? So
I'm not sure what their numbering was, but
otherwise it has simply no relation whatsoever to the injuries you sustained?
no.
And that number means nothing about your injuries?
No.
Okay. So, before we get that thing published, let me ask you some questions about it. What is it that was in your shoulder?
I was told that it was shrapnel.
Have you, since that time, since July the 20th of 2012, had pieces of that shrapnel work its way out of your body?
Yes.
Starting when?
I want to...
Judge, relevance 403.
Would counsel please approach? All right, Mr. Brockler, you may proceed.
Ma'am, I want to just ask you one question about that stuff in your shoulder. Since July 20th, 2012, do little pieces of the metal shrapnel work themselves out of your body?
Yes.
Okay. Sweet goodness. How about this? How about I do it by the Elmo, Your Honor, if you
Okay.
don't mind?
She's saying that you can't, I think.
I don't want to take up the court's time with that. Can I have one moment, Your Honor? This might
Yes.
be faster than
Yep.
nothing. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Can I have one moment?
Yes.
court's permission, ma'am, would you publish that
Yes.
impossible exhibit? Okay. Ma'am, just quickly, and it may seem obvious to you, when we're looking at this picture of your left shoulder here, are all of those, each of those dots that we see, different pieces of the shrapnel that have gone into your body?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, any cross-examination, Mr. King?
No, thank you.
The jury may have a question for you. Give us a moment, please. Thank you. Would counsel please approach? Mr. Brockler, may this witness be released from her subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor, she may.
Without objection.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Please call your next witness.
Tom Wilson, Your Honor.
Come on up, sir. Good morning. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name for the record and spell your first, middle, and last names?
It's Thomas James Wilson. It's Jameswilson.
And Thomas? Is it Thomas?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Orman, you may proceed.
Sir, please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury who you work for and what your job is.
I'm a detective with the Aurora Police Department. I'm currently assigned to the District 3 Investigations Bureau. Up until last year, I was with the Major Crime Homicide Unit for 12 years.
Were you involved in the investigation into what occurred on July 21st, 2012 at the Aurora Century 16 movie theater?
Yes, sir.
Were you also involved in the investigation into what happened in the apartment 1690 Paris Street, number 10?
Yes.
I want to first ask you just a couple of background questions about the way that the Major Crimes Homicide Unit would operate back then. We've heard from other detectives who were working on the case. Was it a team approach that you took?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe how that works, how you would have multiple detectives working on one case?
Yes, any major case that we had, they would call out detectives, or at least 4 of us. Of course, in this case, we called out all our detectives. We would meet in one place. We'd always be briefed as a team, and then assignments were passed out. Some detectives would go to the hospital. Some detectives would go to headquarters to interview people. In this case, I was sent to the apartment complex. So detectives are given assignments, but we're constantly communicating with each other throughout the investigation.
Did you have a specific role with regards to the apartment at 1690 Pear Street, number 10?
Yes.
Can you please describe what your role was with regard to that location?
I was sent to meet with the SWAT team, just
And-
kind
and
of...
don't get into what people told you or anything like that. I want to make it clear. I just want to know what your role was and if you could describe sort of what your role was.
I was just the liaison between, I was the MCU detective just assigned to the apartment. We wanted to make sure we had a major crime detective at any location that was involved. So I was just to go there and kind of see what was going on. I wasn't in charge by any means at that point.
Did you assist with the execution of a search warrant at the apartment?
Yes.
How many law enforcement agencies, to your memory, were involved in the search of the apartment?
Objection. Cumulative.
Overruled?
We had, well, as far as the actual search warrant, there were agencies involved initially before we were able to execute our search warrant because of the other items.
Okay, so why don't you I just want to get a picture for what law enforcement agencies were involved. So if you want to divide it up into the before and after, just let us know. Since you were the MCU person in charge, I just want to get your perspective on that.
Initially, we had the bomb squads from Arapahoe County, Denver, Adams County there. Then ATF showed up, and the FBI was there. Once the apartment was safe for the rest of the detectives, it would have been myself, the FBI, representatives from ATF. I believe that's all the people we used when we did the actual search.
When the FBI evidence response team was searching the apartment, removing items, and so forth, what was your role when that was going on?
Basically, I was directed to let their evidence response team do the search and collection of evidence because that's what they do. That's what they specialize in. So I was actually just a member of that team at that point, and kind of just, I shouldn't use the term roaming around the apartment, just seeing what was being collected from each room. And then at the end of the night, I actually was with their supervisors and we inventoried everything, accounted for everything, and then made sure it was packaged and ready to go wherever it was going at the end of that day. So I was a search team member at that point.
After the FBI evidence response team concluded their search of the apartment and removed the items of evidence that they collected, did you later go in and collect additional items of evidence?
Yes.
We've heard testimony from a FBI agent, Jeffrey Holmes, about removing some computers from the apartment and providing them to the Aurora Police Department. I think he specifically mentioned Gordon Madrona. Were you involved in that, and did you observe that?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how that worked?
The first items out of the apartment were computers and any data items, memory disks, flash drives, anything like that. We got those out of the apartment. The FBI evidence response team people actually gave those computers to myself and CSI Darvin Harrell. We carried those items down to the crime lab vehicle, and then they were turned over to Gordon Madonna, who's one of the forensic computer examiners, so that they could get started on those items immediately.
I want to go to the next, actually before I do that, I want to ask a different question. You indicated that you were there when the FBI evidence response team was collecting evidence. Did you observe the evidence that they collected?
Yes.
Did you observe it both before and after it was collected?
Yes.
I want to ask you now about the day after the FBI was done with their search. But I guess first I should ask you, do you remember what time on the 21st the FBI was done with their search?
We actually finished at 1 o'clock in the morning on the 22nd. We began approximately 6 o'clock in the evening on the 21st, and we finished at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Did you then go back to the apartment the following day and subsequently to collect additional evidence?
Yes.
One of the things I want to ask you about is evidence showing occupancy. Is that something that you commonly search for in a residence?
Yes, sir.
And if you could please tell us what generally is evidence of occupancy?
A person's mails, bank records, bills, credit card statements, utility bills, things that show that person is there and receiving mail there.
Essentially things with the name of the resident on it?
Yes, sir.
Do you also, when you search for evidence of occupancy in a residence, look to see if there's evidence that other people were occupying that or living in the residence?
Yes.
And would that be the same type of stuff?
Yes, sir. Same items.
In this case, did you specifically look for items that could be evidence of occupancy?
Yes, I did.
And we're going to look at some of those things in just a few moments. Did you find evidence of occupancy for the defendant?
Yes.
Did you find anything that would be evidence of occupancy that would indicate another person was living in or occupying that apartment?
No, sir.
I want to ask you about now some items of evidence that you recovered. First of all, I want to ask you about an area near the kitchen, near the refrigerator, where there was a wastebasket there. Did you see the wastebasket and see what was in that area?
Yes, I did.
And if we could please put up a photo I believe has been admitted into evidence, 2381. What are we looking at there?
This is, the top of the picture is the side of the refrigerator. This was the trash can that was sitting in the kitchen area of the apartment.
Now, I don't want to talk about what's in that receptacle. I'd like to talk about what is behind that, sort of between the trash can and the refrigerator. Do you recognize that item that is there?
Yes, I do.
Did you collect that item?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness and continue to do so at will?
You may.
Thank you. Sir, take a look at that. I've handed you what I've marked for identification as, I believe it's 756. Do I remember that correctly? Up in the upper corner, there should be a little, it's up in the upper right-hand corner as you're looking at it. You got to sort of pull the plastic up a little bit.
Okay. Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Do you recognize what I've marked for identification as People's Exhibit 756?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is that?
This was a piece of poster board with a design on it that's depicted in that photograph. It was between the trash can and the refrigerator.
And is what you're holding in your hand there, in fact, the item that was between the trash can and the refrigerator?
Yes, it is. The packaging and the labeling here is mine. This is my writing on the packaging.
Your Honor, I move to admit People's Exhibit 756.
Any objection, Ms. Spengler?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-756 is admitted.
Now, before I ask you to show that to the jury, which I'm going to do in a moment, we can take that down. Thank you. As part of, is there a symbol on that?
Yes, sir.
As part of your search, did you see that symbol elsewhere in the apartment?
Yes, I did.
Where was that?
It was on a calendar that was on the wall in the bedroom.
If we could please put up Exhibit 4395, which has been previously admitted. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
And if we could please, ma'am, zoom in on the date for the 20th there. And now, if you could, while that's up there, Your Honor, I'd like him to show that to the jury so they can see both at the same time.
All right, you may stand up and show it to the jury.
Thank you. You can sit down now. We can take that down. Thank you. Now, to be clear, that wasn't put up on the wall or anything like that. It was behind the trash can next to the refrigerator, right?
Sure.
And you didn't see anybody take it down off the wall and put it there. That's the way you saw it originally.
That's the way it was found, yes, sir.
I'm going to show you with what is a very large piece of plastic with a bunch of stuff in it, and I'm going to ask you to take a look at that for me. So it's going to be People's Exhibit 763. Please take a look at 763 for me.
Okay.
Now, it's a lot of different things in that, but do you know what that is?
Yes, sir.
What is that item, or are those items?
These are all documents that I recovered in a folder that were in the closet of the master bedroom, well, the only bedroom.
We've seen pictures of the closet in the master bedroom, or you're right, the only bedroom. Where in the closet did you recover those from?
They were on the floor in a box.
And is that the condition that you found them in? I mean, they haven't been altered or anything like that?
No, they've just been removed from the folder and put in plastic so we could see them.
So you could see them. Your Honor, I move to admit 763.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, without objection, P-TR-763 is admitted.
And Your Honor, there's a lot in there, and I don't want to publish all of it, but can I publish some of it with hopefully the document camera?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you hand me that microphone? And if I can, Your Honor, I'm going to use the handheld microphone.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And Your Honor, we can move this.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Your Honor. I'm sure that mark was there before. Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you.
Now what does this appear to be? And we're going to focus it in a second.
I recall it was a vehicle title.
And is this the kind of thing, again, that you look for as evidence of occupancy?
Yes, sir.
And if we could zoom in on the name, please. And then we're going to move over to what the kind of car it is. What's the name on there, just so we can have that for the record?
James Egan Holmes.
Do you see what kind of a car it is?
Yes, sir. It was a 2000 Hyundai, and they have it described as a coupe.
Just so that we're all clear on this, what is a coupe, do you know?
Just a hardtop car. Could be two-door, four-door.
If we could look at the next page over, please. Actually, I'm sorry, this one down here, the registration. And would this be the car registration for the Hyundai in the defendant's name or in the defendant's name?
Yes, sir, it is.
And if we can just so we can have it for the record, this is, what is this? Because this doesn't have a separate exhibit number. I just want to make it clear what we're looking at.
This is just your owner's copy of your vehicle registration that a lot of people just carry this with them or put it in their car.
If we can move over to the next, this one right here. And if we could zoom out a little bit. Fair to say that this is a receipt from an oil change place?
Yes, sir.
And what's the name of the oil change place?
Grease Monkey.
And if we could just zoom in on the date there so we can see that up at the top. If you could tell us what that date is, sir.
It was March 16th of 2012.
Thank you. And if we could go to the next one here, just those stickers. Do you recognize what this or these items are?
Yes, sir.
What is this?
They appear to be return address labels that people put on their mail, on their envelopes.
And again, what's the name?
It's James Holmes.
Same address?
Yes, sir.
And let's see. I think we need that. If we go to the other set, please. Just so that we can get a flavor for what type of documents are in here in total in the vehicle stuff. If we could put this one up here on the upper right. And if we could just go in on the date there on the right-hand side. Just push it over a little bit more. Okay. Fair to say this is an automotive receipt from 2008.
Yes, it is.
And did it appear to you, looking through this, that the defendant had sort of a set of documents related to vehicle maintenance that went back years?
Yes.
Including up to 2012?
Yes.
If I can have a second, Your Honor, there's one more I want to search for, and then I'll be done with this exhibit.
Okay.
And this one, what's the brand of store that is represented by this purchase here?
It's O'Reilly Auto Parts.
And if we can zoom in on the date there, just so we can see that. The top.
It was March 16th of 2012.
Thank you. Your Honor, can I just keep this in case I need to do that again for the remainder of this testimony? Thank you.
Yes, that's fine.
Sir, I'm handing you what I've marked as Exhibit 735. Please tell me if you recognize that.
Yes, sir.
What is that?
It's a backpack that I packaged.
Where'd you find that?
It was in the living room next to a large TV that was on a TV stand.
And is that the backpack that was in the apartment?
Yes, sir, it is.
Move to omit 735, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-735 is admitted.
Did you find anything in that backpack?
Yes, sir.
What did you find?
There was some like notebooks and documents inside there.
And we'll see some of those in a moment. I next want to show you another exhibit. I've handed you what I've marked as, I'm sorry, could you hear the whole thing, Your Honor? I was probably not at the microphone.
No, it's okay.
Okay. I've handed you what I've marked as People's Exhibit 757. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
It's a packaging box from appears to be like a lens, maybe an eyeglass or a contact lens company. I found it in the kitchen trash.
Your Honor, move to admit 757.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, it is admitted.
What's the name of the person that it's addressed to?
It's James Holmes.
And who is it? Who is the return address from?
It's Lens Mart, Lens Orders, an address in Georgia.
I'm going to hand you two exhibits now. Sir, I've handed you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 758 and 759. Do you recognize those items?
Yes, sir, I do.
What are they?
Item 759 is a Comcast cable bill to Mr. Holmes at that Paris Street address. I recovered it from a drawer and a dresser in the bedroom. And then the other items are gun cleaning rods, part of a gun cleaning kit that I recovered from a drawer in the bedroom.
Your Honor, move to omit 758 and 759.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, both are admitted.
Your Honor, this next one's going to be a little different. For some reason, we didn't pull it out and put it in a separate thing, so actually I'm going to have to ask him to do this the old-fashioned way and cut this open and with the original evidence envelope, so.
Okay.
Your Honor, do you have scissors or something?
I think we do. Ms. Curley? Thank you. Do you need gloves or no?
Probably always a good idea.
Okay.
I've handed you what I've marked as People's 761. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir, I do.
And what is that?
These are some financial papers that I took out of a dresser in the bedroom and packaged.
And is that the original packaging?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'm going to ask you to take those scissors and cut that open. Here, do you want to put these on? Can you,
Can you take
those? Can you take those out for me, please? And can we get a, do we have a stapler, Your Honor, just so they don't all fall apart? I'm really sorry about this, Your Honor. Don't know why this one wasn't done.
Thank you.
I think we'll just keep them in the bag when they're done, Your Honor, because the staple's not going all the way through. I'm going to show them to counsel.
Okay. Do you want a paper clip, or do you want to just? Oh, you have a paper clip.
Apparently we have one.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Orman, maybe to save time, you can move on to another item and then allow defense counsel to review the financial documents over the break.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm going to approach and hand you a different exhibit. What have I handed you?
These are some more documents that I have found in the apartment. This one is an actual receipt that goes with that lens order, the lens box that was in the trash.
Where did you find that?
I believe this was in a drawer in the living room. There was a small two-drawer file next to a desk.
Your Honor, move to admit. And what's the number on that? I'm sorry.
This is number 778.
Is it 778 or 747?
It says 778.
Is there any objection to P-TR-778?
No.
Without objection, it is admitted.
Do we have that we can put up, or do we need to use a document camera, ma'am? Apparently we have to use a document camera on that one, Your Honor.
Okay.
If we could zoom in on the, what's the date here that this was purchased?
Looks like it was ordered July 3rd of 2012.
And then if we can just take a look at the name of the item. What's the name of the item?
The brand says it's Possessed Custom.
And then just, if we can go down to the cost.
And the total cost on that invoice is $251.97.
Thank you. Did you collect items from the defendant's medicine cabinet?
Yes, I did.
Specifically, what did you collect?
Any medicines that were in the cabinet?
Did you then separate out any pills that might have been in the medicines?
Yes.
Have that microphone for a second.
You still have it?
No, that one. This, yeah.
Oh, this one? Yeah, thanks.
I'm going to hand you what I've marked for identification as People's Exhibit 770, 771, 772, 773, 774, 775, and 776, and ask you to take a look at that. Do you recognize those?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
These are the medicine bottles that I found in the cabinet in the bathroom.
And then move to admit, Your Honor.
Any objection? Without objection, P-TR-770 through 776 inclusive are admitted.
And then did you take out the pills and count them?
Yes, I did.
First of all, there's a big bottle that says ibuprofen on that. Did you take those out?
Yes.
Do you remember how many those were?
235 or so. Oh, I'm sorry. 432.
Okay, and would those be sort of in this yellowish evidence envelope, if you feel
Yes.
that? Okay. Then, did you take out 3 sets of other pills?
Yes, I did.
And do you remember where you took them from?
They were in three of the prescription bottles had pills in them.
And I'm going to show you what I've marked as 782, 783, and 784. Are those the pills from the prescription bottles?
Yes, sir, they are.
And can you tell me which of those came from which?
I can't from this, but I actually took photographs of which pills came from which bottles.
Okay, so if I showed you those, and let's get back, we'll get back to that. I'll get you on those. Your Honor, move to admit 782, 783, and 784.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, P-TR-782, 783, and 784 are admitted. And Detective Wilson, why don't you pull the microphone back so that it's facing you? Thank you.
I've handed you 2 items. What are those, and if you could tell us the exhibit numbers?
Exhibit number, looks like 1214 is cash that I found in a dresser in the bedroom. And
How much
exhibit-
cash?
I believe there was $55. Should be the total here. It is $55.
And what's the other one?
Sorry. It's a Petri dish, a laboratory dish that I found in the closet in the bedroom.
And what's the number on that one?
That's item number 781.
Thank you.
Move to admit, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
With that objection, they're both admitted.
Now I'm going to approach and hand you three sets of exhibits. One is Exhibit 760. The other is a document that is going to be called 733A, B, C, and D. And then I'm going to also hand you 780. Why don't you first take a look at those 733 documents with the various A, B, C, and D. What are those?
It's just some paperwork from a company or some department in California. Had Mr. Holmes' name on it. They were in a drawer in the living room.
And does it indicate it's to do with unemployment compensation?
Yes, it does.
And is there a date on the first page?
Yes, there is. July 2nd, 2012.
You're going to move to omit 733A, B, C, and D.
Any objection?
No objection.
With that objection, those exhibits are admitted.
Thank you. I also handed you there, what's the next one I handed you?
760 and 780.
All right, what is 760?
760 are some more documents to do with Comcast. They were also in that drawer in the little file cabinet in the living room.
Move to omit 760, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
With that objection, it is admitted.
And what is 780?
780 are two gun locks, commonly supplied with a firearm when you buy it from a manufacturer. If I recall correctly, they came from the bedroom. I'm not 100% on that.
Do you have that on your notes where that came from, on your document there?
I do not, no,
Okay.
sir.
Do those come from the defendant's apartment?
Yes, sir.
Move to omit 780, Your Honor.
Any objection to P-TR-780?
No.
All right, with that objection, P-TR-780 is admitted. Mr. Orman, let's go ahead and take our morning break at this time.
Fine, thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Members of the jury, let's go ahead and break for the morning. Please keep in mind the advisements I have been giving you throughout the trial during the break. They all apply. They're all mandatory. I'll see you back here in 20 minutes, okay? The record should reflect the jury has exited the courtroom. Now, everyone may be seated. Is there anything we need to talk about at this time on behalf of the people?
Your Honor, counsel pointed out that maybe there's one of these is a duplicate exhibit number, 1214. I'm going to look into that over the break.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything on behalf of the defense?
No.
All right, thank you. Enjoy your break. I'll see you in about 20 minutes. The court will be in recess.